and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air. Fuck them back, it's only for they war. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one makes countries. Lie to your face, fight and die. Cause God forgives. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slide, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. See their shit, force a bear. Fuck them back, that's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one leaves countries. Lie to your face, fight and die, cause God forgives. Yeah. Coming back around again.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm your host, Ron Stevens. This is Rock the Boat right here on Revolution Radio. Give me a break. This time change got me messed right up. UCY.TV, the best little network on the whole frickin' internet. And I'm your host for the next 2 hours. So this is good. I would have missed this because I asked my wife last night, normally we used to set the clocks ahead at the end of March. And I told her yesterday, I said, I'm seeing things about turning your clocks back, but mostly it's about smoke detectors is the first thing, and then change your clock back. And so we were running around checking that out last night. And apparently it's true. So I thought I went to bed at a decent hour last night, but of course the clocks go ahead, so you lose that time, and I got up way early. So, it was very interesting. Anyways, there's a couple things I want to talk about here, and one of them is that whether people realize it, I'm sure most people by now realize it, that they're being bled. You're being bled by your so-called government, and all part of the UN redistribution of your wealth or your lack of wealth, whichever boat you're in. And so that's exactly what's going on. Now, I saw a video last night. I've seen a number bouncing around a little bit of $43,000, I believe it was. That these migrants are being given when they land into Canada here. And I'm going to put a video up in a bit. It's a story. It starts off with a story about a guy who's putting his truck up for sale and his house up for sale because he can't afford to live in it anymore. And that goes back to the 72 Conference on Human Settlements, or right in the preamble, I believe it is, that private property has to end, basically. I don't remember the exact words. I have to look it up. But if you look up the 72 preamble, or the 72 Human Settlement Conference in Vancouver with Morris Strong and the Rockefellers and Barbara Ward and all these nutcases, they had like a circus show they were running around with, doing these conferences. But what's not sustainable is private property, and you've got everybody in the school being taught to be sustainable. The councils, your city town councils, are forever puking out this be sustainable nonsense, and And your local radio stations are pumping it out. The churches are pumping it out. The newspapers are pumping it out. Everything's about being sustainable. Well, it's not sustainable. Private property is not sustainable because it's a form of social injustice. And that means simply that if you own property and somebody else doesn't, then you can gain from the ownership of that, hopefully, unless you own it when they dump the next recession on us, which can't be too far off now, and wipe a bunch of people off the map. So you can't, if you own property, the idea is that you have an opportunity to gain, and the other man or woman doesn't because they're renting, and therefore that's a form of social injustice, and therefore nobody should own private property. And you got to understand a little more strong, you know, like he said, like I believe in capitalism for me and my friends, and socialism for everybody else. And that's exactly what's going on. This is the final socialist hammer coming down, where your cost to eat, get from A to B in your vehicle, the taxes on everything, you know, your property taxes and the taxes on everything else just keep going up. In other words, the cost of living is going through the ceiling, but of course the wages or salaries are not holding pace with that. And people are finding their direct discretionary income is evaporating. But that's the plan, is to jam people in up against the wall where they have nowhere to turn. So there's all kinds of people. I've seen all kinds of stories where people have had to sell their homes because they can't afford their hydro bills. Now, we had the cheapest hydro in most of the world because we had a system here that was built specifically to benefit both industry and the men and women that call this place home. And it was a very, very good system until Morris Strong's godson, NDP socialist prick, appointed Morris Strong to revamp Ontario Hydro. But, you know, we saw documents long time ago where this was a hit. It was an absolute hit. And the idea was to tear it apart, sell it off, and a few people get very, very wealthy and control our hydro system, and everybody else is going to suffer like hell, which they are. Anyways, here's a story. This is a newer story. This is actually from November the 11th, 2016. And I don't know how this worked out. I don't see. Maybe that's an update there, but we'll go through this first. This is how bad this is. Now, Ontario's hydro utility is fighting back against a cottage owner who is suing over delivery charges assessed during the almost 8 months his property's power line was disconnected. Hydro One has submitted. Now, Hydro One is a private company as well, but what happened was that when the local utilities went into these public-private partnerships, which were all turned to private agreements after 7 years without the public knowing, and they were sold on the idea that by amalgamating the utilities, that of course they would save money. That's always the story: save money, and it should lower your hydro bills. And people knew nothing about what was going on, but it was a public-private partnership, and it would work out well for everybody. Well, of course, it wasn't set up to work out good for anybody except those feeding off of the poor people trying to keep lights on in their house. So Hydro One was the unit that the privateers want to make as much money as possible. So they only wanted to take control of the towns and the cities where there's a much higher density, so they have more customers per mile, and so their lines are worth more. Their delivery charges are worth more, and it's more compact. Where Hydro One got stuck with all the rural areas, where you've got a mile or two between people, and this is something the privateers didn't want. So that was said. Well, this part of Hydro will keep in order to look after the rural areas. So, anyways, Hydro One submitted a statement of defense in the Durham Region Court in which it defends its practices. Delivery charges are, it says, based on the amount of electricity used by the customer, and another component is a fixed charge, not dependent on the customer's electricity consumption, reads the document. But Kip Van Kempton says that's not what his bill says. It was quite specific that it said delivery charge is for the cost of bringing the hydro to your home. And my point is, they never brought it to my home. You can't charge people for what was not delivered. Well, yeah, you can. If you have a bunch of lawyers who write this shit, if you have the OEB who sets the rates, and you have Enron involved in it, which was the one that devastated California with their manipulation and their games, and you bring in Morris Strong and you bring in Enron, hey, how could it not be a scam? Anyways, this gentleman, Kip, wants to be reimbursed for the $1,100 delivery charge. He says he was assessed between October 2015 and the end of June this year. The power was disconnected after a storm knocked a tree onto the power line to his Mazenah Lake cottage north of Kingston, Ontario. Hydro One was unable to fix the line at the time, and it wasn't until the following June that the cottage had hydro again. Back in the day, when Ontario Hydro was Ontario Hydro, the thought of waiting for 8 months to get your hydro line reconnected would not fly. But now you have all these private companies that don't give a damn. They just want the money. The utility says delivery charges are laid out by the Ontario Energy Board. Now, this is another problem I got with all these people fighting Hydro One. Look what Hydro One's doing to us. Hydro One ain't doing jack shit to you. The OEB that was set up, this whole end system was set up by Enron consultations and lobbyists. And it was a Enron lobbyist, I don't know if he's still there, he was the COO of OEB, which means he was second in command at OEB, who sets the rates. And screws everybody. The utility says delivery charges are laid out by the Ontario Energy Board and everyone must pay, or we shall kill you. Previously, it said a monthly flat rate delivery charge is assessed if the utility company's equipment, including the smart meter, is still on the customer's property. That Van Kempen should have canceled his service and returned Hydro One's equipment if he wanted to avoid paying the automatic delivery charges. Now, how ludicrous is that? How friggin' ludicrous is that? But then I did have Hydro One come and steal my meter, trying to get themselves out of some trouble, and left my one house for, I think it was almost 2 years with no hydro. No bill owed. I was starting to go after them, and they just wanted to play some games. And, I mean, these people all ought to be in jail, every last freaking one of them. I can understand people's concerns, says the utility guy, when it relates to the delivery charge, because there's not a lot of understanding that comes with that. Well, there is. Well, maybe there isn't, but if you know what's going on, it's pretty easy to understand what's going on. They broke all of this, what used to be your hydro bill. Here's your hydro bill, $75 a month or whatever. Now people are paying upwards. This time of year, people are paying anywhere from high fours to $1,000 a month. And even if they wrongly bill you for $10,000 for a month, they take no responsibility for it. They want the money. You say, well, if my bill last year at this time was $500, how can it be $10,000 this month? I don't know, but it's not our problem. Pay the bill. It's hammer time. And we need to pick up some hammers and hammer these guys into the ground is what we need to do. Anyways, it relates to delivery charge because there's not a lot of understanding, yada, 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 said Ontario Energy Minister Glenn Thibault. Now, he used to be an NDP guy, which is a socialist, and then he jumped to the Liberal Party because they were getting themselves in trouble. And this guy's a real snake. And when you're running a fraud, you need some snakes, and he's one. But he says every hydro customer must pay for the wires, towers, and smart meters that make up the system. He says that. Even though this guy is getting no electricity, he still has to pay for the wires, towers, and smart meters that make up the system. The system is a criminal system. If it wasn't for the delivery charge, we wouldn't be able to get that power to your home. Well, you didn't get the power to his home, you twits. He didn't have a line connected. Well, yeah, but he still has to pay for the lines in the smart meter, and the guy from Hydro One says we should give us our equipment back. How be you fix the frickin' line? Thibault did concede that he is considering reworking the definition of delivery charge on hydro bills. Why? To help the people? No, to put the screws on them a little bit harder. Hydro One is asking the court, they didn't deliver him not 1 kilowatt of power. Now he's suing to get his $1,100 back. Hydro One is asking the court to force Van Kempton, the guy with no hydro for 8 months, to pay Hydro One's legal bills. And I wouldn't be surprised if the court forces them to pay the legal bills, because the courts are as crooked as the hydro system. And people have got to realize, this is a takedown. This is a takedown from the inside. People always look at, we got to blow these people up because the government says they're our enemies. Well, no. No. The enemy's inside the gates. The enemy's always been inside the gates. And we have to come to terms with that. And it's very difficult for people to come to terms with that because, we have great countries. No, we don't have great countries. We have a slave system of which you are a slave of the corporation that calls itself your country. And that's a really sad situation. But people have been singing these anthems for so long and waving flags for so long and, pumping their fist, we're the best nation on the planet. Well, you could be, but you're not going to be. This teardown is going to continue until we either stand up, and if we don't stand up, we're going down. And if we go down, it's only our fault. People like to bitch and complain but really get involved. You know, people bitch about, doesn't matter what party is in power. Definition of party is to divide. That's the definition of the word, to divide. To divide who? The nation, the people. Why? Why would the party want to divide the people? Keep you confused, keep you fighting amongst each other, keep you arguing over stupid stuff. And have their way with you. So the two-party system is set up specifically to keep you divided. So you vote out the conservatives and you vote in the Democrats or the conservative liberals here in Canada. And guess what? You're divided. So now you vote the conservatives out and vote the Democrats in. And what do you end up with? You're divided. And the machinery in the background is the same machinery that runs both sides. They just bring you a new face. It's no different than the entertainment industry. Here's the latest, greatest entertainer, singer, dancer, movie star, whatever. And some of them have a fairly long career, and some of them shoot up like a star and then kapoof. Because the machinery in the background runs the show. Not the stars on the stage. They don't run jack. Just like the politicians on your TV sets don't run jack. It's the machinery in the background, the bureaucracy, these boards that have been set up over decades and decades and decades and decades. They don't go nowhere. So when this party comes in, guess what? The bureaucratic experts are there to help move the program forward. Yeah, the last guy that was in here, we were trying to do it, and he was being a pain in the ass, which he was just doing what he was told, of course. But the new party guy comes in, it's, yeah, you're the guy we should have had in here all the time. Stroke, ego, stroke. You're the one that can fix this. And we've done some expert work here, and we'd like to lay this on you so that you can see the best way forward here. And of course, he gets led or she gets led down the garden path, and then the people get pissed off at the leader of the party and vote him out. And the next little puppet comes in, hasn't got a clue what he's walking into, but it's comforting because all these experts are there to help. But they're just walking you down that track. Who cares? My favorite TV show is coming on in a few minutes. Is basically the answer you get. I see a letter here. I don't know that I'm going to read it right now. This is a letter to the gentleman with the cottage. Well, it's not that long a letter. Hydro 1, letter, law. Let's just say DeSalva, paralegal law clerk, law division, November 3rd, 2016. Hey, Kep, dear Mr. Kep, dear Mr. Van Kempen, who is not Mr. or Van Kempen. That's not the guy. That's the legal entity. Hydro One Networks Inc., ATS, Kip Van Kempen, court file, whatever. I have your letter dated October 26, 2016, and an email dated November the 3rd, 2016, with a list of additional information that you have requested from Hydro One Networks, Inc., known as Hydro One. In that regard, I have set out your list of requests with Hydro One's responses below. List of proposed witnesses: Hydro One to supply names of linemen from Tweed who have assessed seasonal residences in the vicinity of the Van Kempen property by both trail and boat in the past, especially between December 1st and May 15th. They're to appeal either voluntarily or be subpoenaed. Hydro One's records show that you did not want the property to be reconnected until the spring, so the matter of winter access is not relevant. Mr. Brian Thompson, Tweed, since his memorandum appears under tab 21 of Hydro One's settlement conference brief, Hydro One will not be producing Mr. Brian Thompson. Mr. Steve Stunson will speak on behalf of Hydro One regarding all matters concerning this claim. Either the Ministry of Energy or the Deputy Minister or Parliamentary Assistant Bob Delaney, since Hydro One is relying in their defense upon Hydro Energy Act, or the Ontario Energy Act, And then the response is Hydro One is relying upon the applicable legislation. It does not require government witnesses to interpret applicable legislation or to testify about it. In any event, she said, individuals are not employees of Hydro One and therefore not under Hydro One's control. Additional documentation requested from Hydro One. Provide the record and proof of notifying Van Kempen of both Hydro One outage and the subsequent disconnect of Hydro from his property in October 2015. And the response is it would be impossible for Hydro One to proactively inform customers on planned storm-related outages. Provide a list. This is Van Kempen wanting this stuff. Provide a list of hydro repairs carried out using trail access to the properties in the vicinity of the Van Kempen property during the months falling between December and May 15th over the past 5 years. The Fisher property, 2290 Magazaw Lake, is one such example, in Barber Bay, yada, yada, yada. And his response is, see answer to question 1 above under the heading list of proposed witnesses. Confirmation that because of Hydro One's disconnection, that no hydro was supplied by Hydro One to the Van Kempen hydrometer between October 4th and 2015, June 22nd, 2016. And the response from Hydro One is the service was disconnected during that time period as you wished, so no electricity was consumed. Confirmation that Mr. Van Kempen was told Hydro One would not restore hydro to his property between December 1st and May 15th, as access was only by boat, and Hydro would not use boat transportation between December and May. And the answer, see answer to question 1. Confirmation that Hydro One refused when requested to reverse the delivery charge for the period October 25th to June 22nd. Hydro One confirms this is true. Copy of original agreement contract signed by when Van Kempen originally arranged Hydro in 1974 at the property, including the electric heat analysis that Hydro provide based on the floor plans. The response from Hydro One does not have any records of this sort since layouts are kept on file for 2 years plus current. Confirmation that Van Kempen Hydro bill is paid up to date. And this is Hydro One's response. This account was brought current with a payment that posted on September 28, 2016. The new invoice was issued November 1st, 2016, and is due on December 20th, 2016. Records of various phone calls from Van Kempen to Hydro One between October 25th and June 2016. This was provided to you by email on October 28th. A typed copy of the transcript will be available in court on November the 9th, 2016. I've asked Customer Relations Center to look into the June 2016 call recordings. Record of tree trimming and line maintenance in the vicinity of Van Kempen property over the past 5 years. Please see attached Hydro One document provided by Forestry Service on yada, yada, yada. And Hydro One Networks, Per De Silva, paralegal and law clerk, law division, Oshawa Small Claims Court, attention to clerk. Now, I had a problem in this place I'm in. I put a new line in here, new service in, and everything was new in here. We rebuilt the house. We completely rewired the place. Well, we tore most of it down, rebuilt it. Every piece of old wire and old plumbing, everything was changed with a new service brought in, new stacks, new panels, everything. And we were having this most horrendous flickering problem in the house. It lasted for about 5 years. And I would phone up my service provider, which is Westereo. We're a bunch of crooked bastards, power, and explain to them that, we don't even know where a hydro bill could possibly be, because the way everything's banging around in here, people come over and they think the place is going to burn down. What was happening was that the load was screwed up, and I ask and ask and ask, and it's never their problem. See, when Ontario Hydro existed, and if you call Ontario Hydro and you said, I got a problem here, they would send someone out ASAP, figure out what the problem was, and get it fixed. If it was your problem, you fix it. If it's our problem, we fix it. But that's the way it is. These new guys, it's never their problem. Never, ever, ever their problem. Just send us some money, please. So, I finally asked them to get a forensic electrical inspector to come and figure out what's going on. I was having to put my toast down sometimes 6 times. I put the toaster down, the bathroom light might go bright or whatever. It was just ridiculous. And so I finally got the guys in, and they changed the meter, and they said the meter's fine, except it's a smart meter. So I said, well, the other house I have on the property, there was some tree limbs getting up around that one wire. And I said, well, maybe I'll go click that, trim around that wire. And maybe there's a limb or something hitting that wire, but that wire has got nothing whatsoever to do with this house. So they left, and a while later they came back in. What are you doing back here? And they said, well, when you said you were going to trim that wire in that, we thought, well, we got the bucket truck here. Why don't we go up with the pole at the road and trim some of those branches? And you go, okay. And so what are you doing here? Well, we just want to let you know, when we got up there, the neutral was down to 1 strand. And that's likely what was causing your problem here for the last 5 years. So they jimmied it together, right? They put a piece in and said, how's that? And I said, that's 1,000,000% better. But that was 5 years, the pissing around, wasting my time, listen to these a-holes. But you see, they got the monopoly. See, Ontario Hydro used to have the monopoly. But in its constitution, whatever we want to call it, or the legislature for it, they were a not-for-profit company. Their job was to keep the rates low, give our industry, manufacturers an advantage, which it did, and supply hydro to everyone at the most minimal cost, because you need your hydro. Now, when they started messing this up and selling it off, the whole idea was that, well, Ontario Hydro is no good because, well, it's a monopoly. And it's old, and it needs this, and all this kind of stuff. And, of course, everybody played this up as if it was going to be a miracle. And for the first time since Ontario Hydro existed, we're going to have competition in the marketplace, and that will help drive prices down. Well, there is no competition. Each one of these entities is hooked to the other entity, and there's absolutely no competition. If there was competition, this Van Kempen guy could go get hydro somewhere else. I could go get hydro somewhere else. I mean, in the town I live in, if there was somewhere else to go get power, I would think that West Ontario Power would likely be out of business in the morning, because everybody's pissed off at this outfit, but there's no competition, which they said the whole point of breaking Ontario Hydro up was to make it more efficient through competition. You just got to go back to Morris Strong, right? This isn't socialism. This is his buddies, the capitalists, sucking you dry with a socialist message attached to it. Is all that's going on. And I find that very, very, very disgusting. So I don't know whatever happened to this guy. I'll have to look it up later. I can't see an update on it anywhere. So now this guy who just simply didn't have any power to his cottage for 8 months is now dicking around in small claims court, being countersued by an outfit that has a whole lot more money and a bank of lawyers. And instead of saying, you know what, let's just call it a day, right? Okay, we get this delivery charge. We didn't deliver squat to you. And we apologize for not getting your lines hooked up sooner. And let us hook your lines up and scratch that. Now, that would be how a moral, honest man would operate, but there's nothing honest and there's nothing moral about these people, because they're all created through the legal system, which by definition is amoral. That's why I don't give a shit if you're thrown out on the street. They don't give a damn if you and your family are living under a bridge. Just give us the money. There's no compassion. They teach the government, the so-called government, right? This is a socialism being at play here. You know, they take these little children and they teach them about empathy and that, and don't be a bully and all that. Okay, so these kids, they're coming up through school, and everybody in Canada has been taught that. You know, the government loves you, right? We'll help you out. And now they teach everybody in the schools about empathy, no bullying, right? And all this kind of stuff, which just makes them spineless, really. You know, they're jellyfish. They don't know how to stand up, and that's the point. And Brzezinski's the one that brought that one up. Take 2.5, 3 generations, basically. I could turn these people into jellyfish. Then we do whatever the hell we want with them. On this hand, we're telling you to be empathetic and don't be a bully and care for other people. On this hand, in this other hand, we got a club. And we'll beat you in the ground. And we're going to rob you and steal from you and bankrupt you and destroy your lives. And I don't know how much longer people can possibly put up with this nonsense. You know, they're starting to see their neighbors being thrown out on the street. They're still turning a blind eye to it. They're still in this little fictional world. Well, they must have done something wrong. Meanwhile, they're looking at their checkbooks and that going, holy shit. You know, we're not making enough money to keep our heads above water anymore. Well, you never will. It ain't designed that way. And what really sickens me, I think, is that I told people way back in the 1970s that this was coming. You know, I told them then that, you know, they're pushing, oh, we got a great democracy and everything, right? Well, until later I figured out democracy means the same thing as party, to divide. Okay? You have two parties in a democracy, and your country is split down the middle at all times. At all times. and they just have their way with you. But I did tell people way back in the 70s that, and I was fairly young then. I was quite young then, actually. But, when I took a quick look at the American system and I looked at our system, the American system was supposed to be set up with checks and balances. So this kind of nonsense doesn't take place. And Canada, once you vote for a party, then you never vote for the prime minister. And I don't believe in the United States you ever vote for a president. You vote for the party. You vote for the party, and whoever's leading the party becomes the president. Somebody can tell me if I'm wrong on that, but I think that's how it works down there. So you're always voting for a party. You never vote for a man. It's not set up that way. So when I looked at this, so we got no checks and balances here. So once any party gets a majority vote, then for the next 4 years, and they can stretch it all the way to 5 if they wish, they can do basically whatever the hell they want or are told to do, and there's nothing anybody can do except bitch and complain, which means that Canadians are probably amongst the best bitcher and complainers on the planet. We're professionals. I don't think anybody can bitch and complain us. I don't think anybody can beat us at it. We're known for hockey up here, but I think bitching and complaining, I think we're even better at that than hockey, because that's what we were taught to do. Bitch and complain and then vote the next party in, who gets a majority, and reign as king and do whatever the hell they want. Now, back then, they were, Canada was looking pretty good back in the 70s, really. It was looking better in the 60s, but in the 70s, it was still looking pretty good. And so people were still, working. You had 3 generations working at the same plant kind of thing. I mean, we were making what we needed for the most part. And then after the oil crunch, the false oil crunch or the false Saudi oil crisis in the 70s, our manufacturing started to be sucked out of this country until there's really nothing here. We're the second biggest landmass country on the planet, and we make nothing. We have more resources per capita than anybody anywhere on the planet, and we make nothing. Now, how are you going to survive like that? You're not. So now we got, I told them in the 70s, I said, this is right now you look at this, what we got is a benevolent dictatorship. But when it turns, and it's going to turn on you, you don't know how to deal with it. And the people don't know how to deal with it. They have no idea how to deal with it. And I'm hopeful that they get their act together and wake up before we ride this thing into the ground, into the bottom. We have this idiot now, Trudeau, and he's not an idiot. He knows exactly what's going on. He's the front man. His daddy was the front man. His daddy worked for a communist newspaper before he became the Prime Minister of Canada, for crying out loud. I mean, duh. His daddy was a member of the Club of Rome. Duh. His whole cabinet was full of these guys. And now it's the son's turn. And he ain't going to do nothing different. So now we've got the floodgates open to the migrants. And we have to stomp them out of here somehow. Because they are the foot soldiers. They are the infantry. They are coming across our lands, and they are here to destroy it. They're here to destroy our way of life. That's their job. And they have every government agency on their side. Talk about treason. The military is protecting them. The police are protecting them. The politicians are feeding them and housing them with your money. So it's about, empathy again. It's about helping your fellow man again. And now all the churches are involved in this, just like they were involved in the green energy and involved in all the rest of the shit. I mean, they're as evil as you're ever going to find. I'm not saying the people that go to church on Sunday are evil. But those running the show for you are as evil can be. It's the same thing with the union guys. You know, the union guys are probably fine guys, but your leadership is working to take you down. Because all the unions are involved in this crap. All the churches are involved in this crap. The school boards are involved in this crap. Your local town council's involved in this crap. But somewhere along the line, people are going to have to wake up to some of this garbage. And what really disturbs me, I think, more than most anything, is that I put this thing in my Facebook, and I find the responses quite disturbing. Freaky almost. And it's really sad. It's really sad. Now I put this thing in here, and it reads out like this: comedy or drama, and then in brackets CBC's Little Mosque on the Prairie, is used to soften up the targeted society. In other words, get a foot in the door, to accept what is to come. Then anyone who speaks out is demonized. It's a template that they've used over and over and over, be it war, global warming, green energy, LGBTQ, sustainable development, or the invasion of Islam, etc. It is all about softening the mind so the planned normalization can take place. The West is being destroyed from the inside by the very people think represent them. Wake up. Or lose your nation to the desires of the satanic UN globalist corporate psychopaths, sociopaths pulling the strings. Strings that are attached to politicians, media, teachers, preachers, etc. Time to start posting wanted posters across the nation. I think this is a good idea myself. You see, because this is World War III, and this war is a spiritual, psychological war. Now, I'm not into violence in the sense I want to see bloodbaths in the street by people that don't even know what the hell's going on. I don't ever want to see it to get there, where the mobs come out. And if anybody understands mob makeup, most of the mobs have a facilitator, just like every other con game that's going on. And they get these people worked up, and they don't even know what the hell they're bitching about, or why they're doing what they're doing. They're just frustrated, and they're easy to deal. They're easy to control. But the idea of putting up posters, and I think that goes back to the ladies that call in every now and again from Calgary. And if you're listening, ladies, I want to thank you for all the good work you do. But you're thinking about the posters and what they did in Calgary. They went to the town hall, and Calgary has to have a Muslim mayor, which still blows me away because I lived in Calgary. It was like cowboy land. It was like I didn't know you could get any. The snow wasn't as white as the population, for crying out loud. And now we have a Muslim mayor there, which really threw me. But anyways, these ladies are going there to the council meeting. city council trying to get fluoride removed out of the water, and they're being, patronized. Oh yeah, we'll look into your study and yeah, all this kind of stuff, and never happened. And they finally caught on. Nothing's going to happen here. They're just playing with us. So they went and started postering all over the place and putting the names and the phone numbers of the council on the bus stop windows and whatnot, and telling them that these people are poisoning your children and you should get on the horn to them. And it wasn't until they were out in the public being trashed like this that they did something. They did get fluoride out of the water. But it's about holding their feet to the fire. Put a gun to their head, okay, because this is a psychological, spiritual war. And, what I found from dealing with a lot of CEOs and ministers of different ministries in the government, and CEOs of companies who have got their mitts in, like the hydro system here, and the municipal halls, as long as you're talking to the CEOs or the mayor or the administrators, they're good to go because it's contained. It's contained. But once you start talking to the staff and other people, things get to change, and that's when my police visits started to happen. But if we all just go and make a poster and put whatever on the poster you want to put on it. See, there's more of us than there are of them. That's the ticket. Okay? But a lot of people are still asleep. But a lot of people, an awful lot of people, when they sit down quiet at night, when there's no distraction and no noise, I'm pretty sure that a great percentage of these people know in their gut that something ain't right. And we got to help them understand what's not right. And I think to blitz our towns and our cities and our country coast to coast with posters will help people to understand that what their gut feeling is that they can't put their finger on, but something ain't right, will help them to start to look at things with a little more serious eye. You know, when you're putting these posters up, you can put whatever you want on the poster and then put a link to something that you think may wake these people up on whatever subject it is. And I think that'll go a long ways. A long, long ways. I mean, if you think about it, you know, I have people all the time, even in this small town, tell me I was going to shoot somebody. Well, that's pretty stupid, really. I mean, if somebody's trying to come through your front door, fire away. But to go after a counselor or a cop or whatever, all you do is you know, the media ain't going to play it up on your side. That's for damn sure. So just don't go there. Psychological. Anyways, it says time to start posting wanted posters across this nation. It will serve two purposes. It will show the treasonous dogs truth is rising. It will also serve to wake those who still are sleeping, but who know in their gut that something is very wrong in our nation. Breach of trust is treason. That's the definition. Breach of trust, the definition is treason. From Tinkerbell Trudeau, that's our PM. It's actually, his name is Justin, but Tinkerbell seems to suit him better. From Tinkerbell Trudeau to Kathleen the Dyke Wynne, to Notley the communist, Rachel the communist Notley, Wynne being the Premier of Ontario, Notley being the Premier of Alberta, etc. To your local mayor, All are involved in the implementation of the satanic UN globalist corporate agendas without notifying people what they're up to. And that's what they're doing. The people don't know what these people are up to. And this is a breach of trust, which by definition, again, is treason. World War III is upon us. It's a spiritual psychological war, a war that must be won. So fire up the printers and start posting wanted posters across the nation. Let them know we know and are going to hold them accountable for their treasonous actions against the good men and women and children of this nation. The destruction of our nation began long ago. Tinkerbell is just the latest holder of the reins of power. Enough is enough. That's a decent message, I suppose. I have to crack this stuff out pretty quickly. And but what killed me, right at the beginning, comedy or drama, an example is CBS's Little Mosque on the Prairie, which is used to soften up the targeted society or get a foot in the hole, get a foot in the door. Now, we had this series here in Canada called on CBC, which is our Communist Broadcasting Corporation, which the taxpayers pay for. Little Mosque on the Prairie, I think ran for 9 years or something. And it was brought in here specifically to show people that Muslims are wonderful people. But it was brought in right after. As soon as they had pulled the Lord's Prayer from the legislatures and the council meetings and the schools, there's a vacuum. Now, that's when they fired up Little Mosque on the Prairie. Okay, there's a vacuum here to be filled. Now we're running around. We've got people knocking doors, the Muslim youth knocking doors in pretty much every community across this country. Islam is the religion of peace. Well, it takes these guys like work like the turtle very slowly. Right? It took them a long time to turn people away from the moral code, basically, if you will, because I hate religion. But the moral code that was taught to us about, treating each other well and don't do any harm to anybody, which is the basis of what the law is supposed to be. So it took them a long time to tear this down. You don't see young people in churches anymore. You see the old and the very old and the extraordinarily old. They've decimated that whole idea and left a vacuum. So now it's time to push forward and fill the void, and that's why they did the show. And so when the migrants start coming, they can play it up in the churches and that, and anybody that watched the show saw these people as humorous, wonderful people. And I don't think I only watched one episode or half an episode, and I was absolutely disgusted because what I saw was the Muslims being the intelligent, upward mobile, and the Canadians in the show seemed to be hayseeds and not very intelligent and so on and so forth. But that's all the propaganda, how to get it. So these Muslims are really wonderful people, and oh my God, look at that. They bombed the shit out of their countries. What are we going to do? There's 65 million displaced people. Oh, geez, we got to help them out, says the church. Well, the church is already attached to these guys. The same satanic sons of bitches that built the UN are the same satanic bitches that are running your churches and your politicians and your schools and so on and so forth. So when they go to come here, you got these people, mostly church people, sponsoring in Muslims and Islam, which is like oil and water. the idea of immigration. Now, one of our, I forget what his name was. I don't know, it was Laurier. I think maybe it was. Could be wrong on that. Back in the 20s, I think, said, when you come to Canada, you come here to be a Canadian. You can't be Canadian and something else. It was about integration. Now, there's some discussion whether that was said by a U.S. president or a Canadian prime minister, and I ended a fight over it because I don't care, but the message is right. Whether it was an American president or prime minister of Canada said it, the message is right. When you come to our lands, our nation, you come here to be one of us. In other words, you come here to integrate. Because you can't be Canadian or American and something else. Now we have all these hyphenated people. I'm an Indo-Canadian, right? We'll name it. I mean, Toronto has like 128 languages now, but they're all hyphenated, and they're all clustered, and they don't integrate. So you're they're pulling at your heartstrings. You were taught empathy. Oh, we have to be empathetic to these poor people. And we have to help them out because this is what Canada is. We're a multicultural nation. Well, that came straight out of the Jews' mouths. Great little manipulators they are. So these people have no clue what they're bringing in here, are patting each other on the back because they sponsored a Muslim or Syrian family. Now they're not sponsoring in Christian Syrians who are getting the shit beat out of them over there, but they're bringing in the Muslims, and that's like trying to mix oil and water together. These things cannot integrate. One can submit to the other, but they cannot possibly integrate. And the idea of the Muslims is that you will submit. And that has to get pushed off our shores quickly. Now, I spent so much time researching stuff. And really, how much of it actually matters? Does it matter who started what or when? I mean, this is in our face now. And I'm starting to get concerned that we're spending too much time still looking at things that really are not going to change anything. Whether it's an Ashkenazi Jew or a Zionist or whatever it is, does it really matter? I mean, we can discuss this stuff from now till the cows come home and head back out to the field and come home, go back out to the field and come home, go back. We can discuss this crap forever. But, in the 10 years I've been at this, doing these shows, and I appreciate, I've had some good guests and I've talked to some really good researchers, and it was a process that had to take place because you had to figure some of this stuff out. But Joe Average ain't going there. Joe Average doesn't care about an Ashkenazi Jew. He don't give a damn. He don't care about a Rockefeller. He don't care about a Soros. He doesn't care about a Rothschild. He's going to confuse his ass. I think it's time that we take our knowledge and try to put it in some kind of usable form so that we can explain to people why what's going on in their lives right now is going on. But I don't know that we need, and I don't know that they can hold on. I don't know that they can even grasp, you know, the knowledge that so many people have now that have done the research. I remember back when I was trying to help people that were being run out of their homes by these stupid windmills. And I was talking to a gentleman out at a farm. There was a cluster of 6 homes in a corner there out in the countryside, and they all ended up moving out. They couldn't stay there. But of course, they were mentally retarded, says the government and the wind companies, because nobody in the world has ever been negatively impacted by one of these things. And then the media plays that up, that these people are just don't like the look of them, and they're pro-coal or some stupid thing. But these people, no, I met these people, and these people are suffering big time. You don't move out of your house unless something is desperately wrong. And but I do remember I was talking to one farmer, nice guy, and he had so much stray electricity banging around in his house. He thought he had bugs in the house. He thought it was fleas or something. He's always getting, he always felt like there was fleas or something running up under his pant leg, up his leg. So he got all the carpets tore out of the house. Figured that would fix it. That didn't fix it. Then he got it fumigated. That didn't fix it. And it wasn't until they got an electrician in there that they realized that this is all stray foliage. So it wasn't bugs. What was happening, there's so much stray foliage in there, it was standing the hairs up on his legs all the time, and his pant leg would be rubbing against the hair, and he thought it was bugs. And his wife was getting sick, and I talked to a bunch of these people. But what really threw me, because I knew about the wind and the renewable energy scam way back in the 70s, and I started to explain to this guy the history and the players of this particular scam. And I wasn't long into it when I looked at him and his eyes were glazed over. He couldn't consume what was being told to him. He couldn't comprehend what was being told to him. All he knew was that he was living on his farm, doing what he's supposed to do, raise a family and look after the farm, and all of a sudden his life has been ripped out from underneath of him and his family. And all he wants is the government to do the right thing and fix the problem. He doesn't have the capacity to understand that the government is not his friend. So when I'm telling him the history of this and who's what and how this is all interconnected and stuff, his eyes just glaze over. Totally lost him. He didn't have the capacity. He doesn't have the background to deal with this kind of stuff. I mean, most of us doing shows and most of the people in the chats and that, we can sit and talk about this crap all day. But average Joe and Jane out there, they can't deal with it. They're from a totally different mindset. So we need to engage them somehow. And the poster thing ain't a bad idea. But what really bothered me, I guess what I'm trying to say here, is this that thing that I have on my Facebook there, last post I put up on that. What I was getting, not so much on mine, but I posted out to a bunch of other Facebooks, and the comments I was getting was really throwing me. They didn't get by the first paragraph. I'm seeing, like, in some of the Facebooks I painted to, there's 50, 60, 70, 100 comments. And the majority of the comments stop basically after the first sentence. I mean, I was trying to explain to these people that they use comedy and drama and shows like Little Moscow on the Prairie to soften up the target society and get a foot in the door to accept what is to come. And I could go down these lists of comments. Well, I never really watched that show. Well, I watched the show and I didn't think it was too bad. It was kind of funny actually. And well, I watched it, but is it still on? How long's it been on? I should tune into that. I just put the frickin' Little House on Little Moscow on the Prairie as a reference point, and this becomes the discussion point. So we out here may have a great deal of knowledge, but Joe Average doesn't. And I don't think anything stuck me in the face harder than that. The comments were ludicrous. Ludicrous. I had one say, well, I really enjoy the show because it's kind of funny, and I don't remember any religious overtones about it. I said, religious overtones, all they were trying to do is get you to accept Muslims as wonderful and I guess funny people. Oh. It's sad. It's extraordinarily sad. You know, and we need numbers. I don't want to see us sitting around here talking about Ashkenazi Jews or whatever you call them guys, or Putin, or any of this stuff, which has no bearing on anything as we go up in flames. You know, we'll be sitting under a bridge someday. Yeah, I discovered that piece of information back in 86 or 92 or 2010 or whatever. And the nation's gone. And the people are destroyed. All the knowledge in the world is worthless if we can't figure out some way to engage these other people. Because without them, if they're not on side, then they're with the other side. And you become the rebel and the enemy. And I don't think that's what we're trying to accomplish here. I mean, you can't pick up anything around here anymore. I mean, you can't look at a media. I mean, Duck Chris was jumped in on the show last night for a bit, and he was telling me, and I haven't even had a chance to look it up yet, but maybe I should. Talking about some new survival show or something out of Russia. That you can actually kill the other parties in the show. And but see, they've already had movies about that, right? And now apparently they got some weird reality TV show they're coming up with in Russia, where the hunted become the hunters and the vice versa, whatever. But it's not so much fun and games anymore. And people will watch anything because it's entertainment, and they can't make the attachment between that and the other. I'm kind of looking forward going back to court on Monday. If we can get there. It's snowing like a pig here right now. It's minus 10 this morning, or minus 12 when I got up. And See, this is something from Michael Schmidt. Now, we're having a bit of fun. I don't know, we're having fun over at the courthouse. But, I put I took some pictures over at the courthouse, and I was told not to. And I had a policewoman grab a hold of the camera strap and had to ask her to let go of it. And I was being told that I'm not allowed to take pictures in the courthouse, which I informed her I was, and she was getting a little uppity, and finally had to tell her, would you like to maybe just take your hand off my camera strap, or I'll have to charge you with assault. At which point this one cop, and I still don't know his name, I've known him now for a few years because he's a big guy, not fat, just a big guy, and tall guy, and I've talked to him when we were being dragged into court, and they were trying to intimidate us with this free man on the land bullshit, and that we were free men on the land, and that they had every right to get real ugly with us. Not sure why, but I started talking to this guy, and when I came over here for this last case for Michael Schmidt, the raw milk farmer here, as soon as he saw me, hey Ron, how's it going? How's everything been, man? I haven't seen you for a while. And we've had some pretty decent discussions, so I'm glad to see Michael took these photos and added some stuff to it. Nice to see the police photos. We're getting along just fine. George kept his cool, and I got to give it to George for that. George is like 71 or 2 now, and George has been at this an extremely long time, and knows the game inside, outside, upside down, and we're trying to work our way through it. And George didn't show up to court. George did not go and get his summons, so there was a warrant out for George. And so they got this trial going, and the day they finally got the trial going, which was last Thursday, I believe, just as the judge had done all his, explain everything to people, well, how we're going to do this and that, who walks into the courtroom but George, and sits down, and when the judge is ready to move forward, George stands up and says he had a few things to say, and that he was here for the trial, and so on and so forth. And normally in a case like that, especially when the judge has a heart attack or a big freak out and starts screaming and yelling and carrying on like an idiot, and George really kept his cool, and George can get pretty boisterous. He kept his cool, and he let the judge lose it, and he didn't go there with him. Never give them what they want, eh? That's the whole ticket. Don't give them what they want. And so when we got out of the courtroom with George, and I did get up in front of George, and I explained to the police just to just chill out, okay? We'll do this nice and peaceful. We'll get outside the courtroom here. We'll sort it out. And they were actually quite well mannered. That little woman got a little uppity about the camera. But other than that, and of course I didn't put the camera away, and I continued to take pictures. And one of the other cops, a big guy, came over, and he said, well, she's requesting. I said, well, request denied. And I can take pictures here, okay, which I intend to continue doing. And he said, exactly. So he just told her to get her hand off the camera strap and be done with it. So, but this is nice to see Michael had put this in. I know he's been extremely busy. I stuck this up on these pictures up. I took a lot more pictures than this, just a few of them. But I like what he's got to say here. It says, nice to see the police photos. We are getting along just fine. George kept us cool. The police agreed to, in quotes, man handle him properly, not like a corporate piece of meat, but man, which is law, which make these guys peace officers, it makes them, peace officers, not policemen and women who are policy enforcers, which is corporate. So, they were acting damn good, really. They had to be mentioned a couple times to keep their cool. There was a couple of younger cops that were getting a little antsy. Don't we? Isn't the part where we jump this old guy? Kind of attitude, but it went very well. So they manhandled him properly, and all was good. It is in this way a great exercise to break down barriers. Raw milk and police is a unique combination because police is used by bureaucrats for enforcement support, when in fact most of them are actually on our side. And, so I've never gone to court. I've been assaulted several times at the court. And each time I would take the time to explain to the police what their duties and roles and all this kind of stuff. And in most cases, they were kind of freaked out that I wasn't yelling and screaming at them, right? Because that's what they're trying to get, and give it to them. So over this period of time, Michael being dragged in and out of court, we were dragged in and out of court. I was talking to the cops in the courtroom before the judge came in, and I was asking, I'd like to get one of you guys on the show, and they seemed a little freaked out about that. But then we talked, and we think we may found one to do it, and I hope he does it. I really hope he does it. But I told him about the teacher I had on the show, and the fact the teacher was scared to death to come on the show. I had other teachers that wanted to come on the show where they're getting close to retirement, and they were advised not to come on the show in case they endangered their pensions. And I had a couple of the cops kind of, roll their heads and go, oh, yeah, the damn pensions, right? I don't think a lot of these cops are too pleased with what they're being told to do. And I told them, too. I said, you have every right not to do what you're told to do, okay? If you know what you're being told to do and your heart and your gut says it's wrong, then you have every right to refuse to do it. It's no different than if I tell somebody to get up on a building and what I'm asking him to do, he sees in his mind is absolutely not safe, or he doesn't feel good about it. It's his job to say, no, I ain't doing this. And explain to me why, and I'm supposed to be bright. Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, geez, I'm glad you brought that up. And everybody has that right, including the police. So it's nice to see this. Michael has never, like I tell the police, you're me and I'm you. And we're both in the same spot here, whether we like to realize it or not. I am not your enemy and you're not my enemy. Okay, and we need to start working together. And so, the one cop, when they got George out to the SUV to haul him out of there, which is ludicrous because he's already at the courthouse, so they got to take him to another town where the charge was laid for this obstruction when they last time they raided Michael's farm, and process him, and then just Enos, another gentleman who was involved in it, he went over with them. So the George would have a ride. I mean, they're going to take a 70, 71, 72-year-old man and drive him over there, process him, and kick him out on the street. That's brilliant. They have a little bit to learn in that sense yet, but, they're top procedures. But the tall cop, I wanted to shoot a film with Enos regarding him being dismissed. His charges being dismissed, and the one cop that was watching the other cops pretty close to make sure George was treated with kid gloves. Thought I was talking about filming the trip, I guess, and the processing, but. He turned and he told me, he said, don't worry about the video, Ron. I'll do it. Well, I was talking about videotaping a segment with Enos, but he said that he would shoot the video to make sure that he could prove to me that George wasn't in any way roughed up or harmed or any of that kind of stuff, which I thought kind of odd, because when we got pulled, I was told I had to be at the hydro company with their landlord agreement, or they were going to come and steal my meter and charge me $980 to get it back, or some stupid number. And when I went over there, I just happened to have a couple other people with me that had nothing to do with anything. And we went in, and they wouldn't accept what they told me I needed to give them, and walked away, and then called the police. And I thought the police didn't know why they were there. So I opened the door for them, invited them in. Two sets of doors coming into the building. And I did. I told them, I said, I don't know why you're here, but I'm glad you're here. You can help me get this sorted out so I can get my copy. They can take their copy, and we get the hell out of here. And they just went RoboCop on us, right? And ended up in jail for the afternoon, and ended up in court. So, you know, that was a rough stretch. So now I have both Art and Sheila. They taped the entire incident, and they had Art down the ground jumping up and down on him. He didn't do nothing, and but it was all recorded on 2 cell phones. And when we got the cell phones back, there's no video. They erased the cell phones. So we went from that a few years ago, that kind of attitude, to this policeman now saying that he will go and make sure that it gets videotaped so that we have evidence that George was treated correctly. That's a huge, huge step in the right direction. You know, most of the cops in the court now are looking at the court proceedings as wrong, not the accused, not the accused as being wrong, which is a huge turnaround. So we just keep working on it, and we'll see how this works out. But I'm going to throw this in. This is Michael's Facebook here, and. It's too bad everybody couldn't meet these guys. I mean, these are some primo guys, man. Now, I got a picture here. The first picture, where are we at here? The first picture is Enos. He was actually, he has a couple of farms, a young guy who just turned 32, works his ass off. He didn't register his last 3 children, I believe it is. I think he has 4 children. Or 3 or 4, but the only one of them ever got registered, the first one. And they have been giving him a pretty tough time ever since. And he's been banged around pretty good. And one of the reasons I believe that he was discharged is that he actually charged the police with assault. And now he has a civil suit against them for what they did to him when they picked him up over this particular case of obstruction out at the farm when they raided it. And all that stuff, you know, these guys still got their heads on straight, you know, because I asked Enos, I think this was Thursday morning, I took that picture, and you know, I said to Enos, why do I get the feeling that George might show up? And he said, George may just show up today. And so when George walked in, he had to go by a lot of cops to get into the courtroom. They're all up and down the hall. The common area outside the courtroom was full of cops. Now, man, oh man. And so Enos said, no, I talked to some of them and told them, just get the word out. You know, if George shows up, let him get to the courtroom. Okay? Don't stop him. And they did. And so that was a good thing. The only one that really messed up was the judge, because he completely freaking lost it. So that's Enos. And the old guy. I don't want to say old guy because George is pretty young at heart, but he's got the gray hair and the beard, and the little cop with the kind of reddish blonde hair is the one that wanted me to stop taking pictures. But the gentleman of most interest to me is the tall guy, looking at what's going on, and he's got his hand up on his forehead going, Ron tells me that I have to be a peace officer, and we have to handle this extremely peacefully, right? And he's watching this shit, what's going on. And he was, I really think, instrumental in keeping a lid on this thing so that these other officers didn't let it get away on them. So George walking in here, that's a pretty brave move because George has been beat up by these guys more than one occasion. So for him to walk in there, knowing what could happen, but he's going anyways, and Michael, I see he's put a few little things in here. Geo, which is George, the raw milk fugitive, showed up after 16 months on his own at our trial and went right to the raw milk family mediation. All cops kept their cool. Thank you, guys. Now, we know the police are reading this stuff. I invited them to tune into the shows, asked them to come on the show. It's working out. We'll just have to see what the judge is up to here. They brought a judge in from, I don't know where he came from, down near Toronto somewhere. Brought him in special. Trying to get a real hard case judge in here because to date they're batting zero. 23 frickin' years they've been beating on Michael in particular and some of these other guys. 23 years. Millions and millions of dollars spent. Untold amount of time wasted for these guys. His machinery stolen, his products stolen. Dragged through courts year after year after year, and they're still batting zero. And Michael just keeps putting one foot in front of the other, right? And he's just a moral man in a very, very amoral system. But he's not. He's just calm, right? He's just extremely calm, and it's a pretty interesting show to watch, and it's free. So, if you're anywhere near Walkerton, Ontario, on Monday at 9:30, I think it's still in courtroom 2, which is upstairs on the second floor. Slide on by. I mean, it's pretty amazing to watch how the judge is having a bit of a problem. Anyways, that's a link to Michael's Facebook. I'm glad to see. I haven't been there for a day or so. I'm glad to see that he took some of those pictures and added a little of his thoughts to them. But it's making a big difference. It really truly is. It's about men and women working together and getting people. See, the media puts these guys out as banditos. I remember Michael came out of the court, I don't know, a couple of years back maybe. And in part of that, whatever that case was, it could be this one. It's been going on a while. Right in the disclosure, the police describe Michael and these guys as anti-government actors, right? And that this area, which is just a small rural county, is well known for its anti-government sentiment, which is ludicrous. What you have is you have some farmers who understand what law is supposed to be and don't like getting run over. So the media takes that. I think a lot of this stuff is based off of things like Ruby Rich and Waco and that, how they can take somebody who is not a threat to anybody and drive that into the media and through their lies and deceptive language and that. And we can go to the Bundys and that too, I guess. Turn the general public against them, because the general public, again, doesn't study anything. The general public just listens. They're not actors, so to speak. They're just watchers. And so that's, again, why I think we need to do something a little bit different, maybe. I have a Sheila who was in court with us over that hydro thing, talking to her early in the week, maybe. And now she lives in Guelph, Ontario, and now the council there is talking about passing a motion to turn Guelph, which is basically a university college town, into a sanctuary town, a sanctuary city, and it's freaking her right out, you know. So I said, that's why I keep saying we need a paper. And she said, well, how do we afford a paper? I said, I don't know right now, but we'll get it figured out. And then she brought up the idea of a newsletter. And I said, what are you talking about? She said, well, just a couple of pages. I said, well, a couple of pages is a little late, but maybe we could run 4 and do that pretty economically and get it to people and their homes. So I think maybe we'll take a run at that, hopefully somewhere this week, but I have a pretty heavy work schedule here. So we'll see what we can do about it. But then I do want to go back to the courthouse. They did 2 days, I guess, now out of the 5-day trial. It was scheduled for 5 days last week, but by the time the smoke cleared, they only managed to get 2 in there. We'll go back there Monday. I wasn't there Friday. We'll go back there Monday and see if they've managed to snag 3 days more. They must have put some trials over or something if they're going to try and do this in the next 3 consecutive days. So we'll see how that works out. But like Michael said, you know, it's a summary obstruction charge, of which they have no evidence we obstructed anybody. But what's the worst going to happen here? A little fine, right? So, you know, this is not this is neither here nor there, really. But you can see it. You can see that it's so amazing, because over the years, all the times we've been in and out of court, and all the time Michael been in and out of court, I got to tell you, you can see it changing. You can honestly see it changing. We've never fought with these guys. We always just try to explain things to these guys. And these guys have they're told by their superiors and that, get these guys are trouble, treat them like shit, intimidate them anytime you can. And we have not played ball at all. And over the last, 3-4 years now, you can see the change is amazing. We're treated with great respect by the police now. They're not trying to intimidate us now. We have very good, clean, clear, concise conversations with each other. And it's changing. But you don't change things. It's like that old story of the sun and the wind, right? The wind is trying to blow the coat off the guy, and it ain't working, because the more the wind tries to blow the coat off him, the tighter the guy holds the coat. Then it's the sun's turn, and he just, the wind backs out of there, and the sun comes on him, and it warms him, and warms his coat, and the whole idea is to get his coat off, right? But the sun didn't go about it the aggressive way. It went about it the basically the kind way, I suppose. And the gentleman removed his coat. I don't know if that's a proper analogy, but that's kind of what we're trying to do with the police. The administrators of the cities, towns, and municipalities, forget those guys. They ain't coming around. I mean, these are hardcore sons of bitches who are generally Satanists, and even the staff up at my municipality seemed to understand it, because when I went in there, and they were getting awful nervous about where I was digging, and they came out and they went from having a guy follow me around with a gun at a municipal hall meeting to trying to patronize, and I wish I would have had that on film, because it was quite humorous, actually. I came in the municipal hall, and the CAO, who's a real little son of a bitch and Marxist, he come out, and a little short farty, and I don't want to pick on short people, but damn it. He come out and he's, oh, hey, Ron, how's it going? The girls came out of the offices. I mean, I was like, I had a greeting club or something, right? They'll come out of their offices and they come out in the main lobby. Oh, hey, Ron, how's it going? This is great. I'm doing good. And then I look at them all gathered there, understanding exactly what they were up to. And I just looked at them and I said, how are Satan's little helpers today? And they all looked at me and go, we wish you wouldn't say that. It's what you're doing. So I have to say it as I see it. That's what I see. And most of those girls in there will vote for me in the next election when I run. That I know for a fact. They're sick and tired of this shit too, just like the police. They're fearful of their masters, their overlords. Just like the ladies at the municipal hall are afraid of their overlord. People will bow down a long ways to get a paycheck. But eventually, they will come around. So I really wish people could come over to the courthouse, because, we have all these stories of police brutality and all that stuff, and they were pretty brutal a few years ago, but constant talking to them, never getting angry with them. Doesn't matter what they do, you don't get angry with them. And that freaks them out. They come and they push you in the hallway or something, just those shots you get in that. Although I did get one a shot Monday. Probably shouldn't have done that, but I couldn't help myself. He had the strangest haircut. Again, he wasn't he was a short guy. I don't know how, I thought they used to have this thing, he had to be like 6 feet or something to be a cop. And now 5'5" seems plenty, I guess. And it's not, again, I got nothing against short people in particular, but they seem to tend to want to get more aggressive. I don't know if that was a schoolyard thing or what, but, I'm walking down the hall and it's lined both sides with cops going to the courtroom. And this one guy had what I thought was kind of an odd get up. He had a kind of he had a mustache and kind of not really a beard, not really a goatee either. And he had a haircut that was not shaved tight on the sides, but pretty tight. And then his hair down the middle of his head was just, a little bit longer. It was kind of like a quasi legal mohawk or something. And it just seemed really strange. So I was coming down the hallways, hey guys, and I just couldn't really help but just give him a little bit of a nudge there as I went by him. And, just, I don't know. I know, I give him a bit of a shot, not hard or nothing. And just said, nice hair, and kept moving. And I thought I shouldn't have done that really, but I couldn't help myself. And he hasn't said anything further about it. So maybe I'll have a chat with him on Monday as well. So, there's it's difficult. I don't even know where to go with this anymore. To really tell you the truth, you know, I go and I look at old papers and you know, old documents that are quite important. But then I'm thinking, I can't talk to my family about this. I can't talk to my neighbor about this. Just like I couldn't explain the real news he needed to know about these windmills that were bothering him. Can't don't have the capacity for it. They just do not have the capacity for it. You know, there's still people out there that have been run out of their homes, still going to the government asking them to do something. I mean, what does it take, people? So we need to come up with some sort of a way that you know, we just really, you know, and it's good now because you have all these things going on. You know, why are all these Muslims? Why is he giving them so much money, right? You know, my Aunt Harriet can't even afford to eat. And these Muslims come in here and they get all this stuff. What is going on here, right? You got that subject. You got your water bill subject. You got your hydro bill subject. These are things that directly affect people in their everyday lives. These are subjects that we can discuss with them, you know, and we can get bodies on side that way. You know, if I went and said, you know, well, Morris Strong started this mess. What's that mean? Well, you know, Bob Ray was the NDP guy. Oh, I don't like the NDP. Well, regardless, Bob Ray. Remember old Bob Ray? He's a liberal now? Yeah? Okay. And he went to one of the he went to one of the schools over at Oxford in England, and I didn't realize that Oxford seems to be this big menagerie of different schools, and their mascot was a turtle, named after a Marxist woman, and this was their school over at Oxford, so we know where Bob Ray's coming from, but you can't go there with those people. The average person has no clue what the hell you're talking about. And worst of all, they don't want to know what you're talking about. How was your hydro bill this week, Bill? Or this month? Son of a bitch. Now you can talk about that. But we got to hold it. We got to keep that message somewhere in between so we don't lose Bob or Bill or Jane or anybody else. This isn't easy. I mean, it was difficult for them to do what they've done to us. It didn't just pop in the brain one day. I mean, these are highly intelligent sleazeballs. That's all, you know, they're the slaziest of the slazy. And, but they're smart. And we're smart. And we're just going to have to outsmart them. See, they think they can get us with their weasel words and their deceptions and their insincerities. But you got to remember, they're amoral. Okay? They're amoral. And we're moral. And I have no doubt in my mind that moral will stomp the shit out of amoral if we can put it together right. And I would think that most of the people living on your street are moral people. They consider themselves to be moral people. They wouldn't willingly go out and cause someone harm. So, and they're hurting, and they're scared, and they need someone to talk to. And I think if we do it correctly, that we can pull an awful lot of people on side awfully quickly. And it's a numbers game. Everything is a numbers game. I don't give a damn if it's a lottery, a horse race, an election. I don't give a damn what it is. It's all numbers. Now, they own the media. They own the churches. They own the schools. They own the unions. They own the politicians. But that's still only a small group of people. You know, we need to go out and own Joe Average. and then they're done. I don't care how much power they think they got. When a large enough group of people just say, you know what, we ain't going there. And that's what the courts are finding now. People are coming to the courts going, don't even bother with it. Don't go there, right? We ain't dealing with that. The courts have almost turned into a schoolhouse now. It's amazing. You know, out in the common areas, the discussion is not about what's your case. The discussion is about what somebody learned somewhere, right? And they're passing that information along. So actually, the courtrooms, I don't have a problem with the courts, other than they're completely unlawful. But as far as an intimidation factor goes, no. It's an opportunity to speak. I mean, where else are you going to get to talk to a bunch of cops? Right? I mean, it's great. They bring them to school for you. And you teach them. And you see how they did the next time you meet them. And apparently this particular group of police, we may have to give them a gold star yet because they seem to be learning rather quickly now. They seem more interested in what we've got to say than what the court recorder or the judge or the Crown has to say. They're more interested in where we're coming from because they see what's going on in the court. In their gut don't sit right with them. When they go home at night and they read the paper that the prime minister said this nonsensical thing that only a retard could possibly believe, and even they wouldn't go for it, or the premier has no authority whatsoever to set or change the price of hydro, says she's personally going to drop the price of hydro by however many percentage. Because these people are mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, men and women, just like everybody else. They hear this shit and they go, that's bull crap. And they're getting pissed off. So it's a perfect opportunity to bring them under wing. And they're getting extremely receptive now. And that is like party time for us, right? Like, yeehaw, let's go see the cops. Right? Don't give a shit about the judge and I just goof. But let's go see the guys, right? You know, I mean, when the tall guy said to me out at the SUV that they put George in, you know, and he said to me about him videoing stuff, and I don't know what the hell he was really talking about, videotaping George, make sure he didn't get hurt. Now, whether he did it or not, I have no idea. We'll find out on Monday. But if he did do it and he hands me the video, that will really mess me up. But you know, when we're out there to truck and he said, you know, the officer, you know, would like to offer her apologies to you about what happened upstairs with the camera. And I said, nobody needs to apologize. They just need to learn to behave. And I said, that's just an off the hip apology because she's scared shitless now because Enos has police and civil court. She's afraid that I'll have her charged for assault, which I have no intention of doing because it's a waste of time. And I don't wish anybody any harm. So if I charge her for assault, then I'm showing bad faith, really. And therefore we won't go there. So now she's peeing her pants thinking, oh, shit, right? You know, Ron's going to take me to court for assault, which he has every right to do. You know, and then the cop will go back and say, no, Ron's really cool about it. That's just going to mess her head up. And that's a good thing. Because next time she goes to do something stupid, she may think a little bit about it before she does it. And that's the whole idea about bringing these people back to peace officers. That's what the tall cop said. He says, we're supposed to be peace officers, right? Bingo. Because a peace officer wouldn't put cuffs on a guy like George. Okay? A peace officer would treat whoever he's dealing with respect. So that picture, him standing there with his hand on his forehead, looking the situation over, it looked like, wait a minute, we're supposed to treat people decently, right? And they did. There was a couple instances there, like I said, a couple of cops were kind of, let's put the cuffs on kind of thing. And, between me, Enos, George, and the one cop there, it went swimmingly well. And most people, you say, wait a minute, you're going to transport a guy. A guy walks into court who was supposed to pick up his summons. It's not his duty to pick up the summons, by the way. And he didn't. But he walks into the courtroom 17 months basically after a warrant's been put out for him. Nobody jumps him. Get him outside. They have a meeting with him. Everything goes well. They're going to take him to process. No cuffs. People have a hard time believing the cops did that, but they did it. And that's a damn good thing they did it. And we appreciate they did it. The only incident possibly is Enos went there with them and said when they wanted George to give his fingerprints, and George said not going to happen. And I guess one of the cops was starting to get a little uppity about it. You'll do as you're told kind of thing. And Enos got in on it and just basically said, no, you're not going there. And they didn't. And I'll leave you with this thought. The funniest part I seen in the whole deal on Thursday was when the guy with the warrant says to George, George says, yeah, we'll go over to your police station and do all that processing crap. And you'll have a lot of papers for me to sign. And the guy with the warrant says, yeah, but you're not going to sign them anyway, George. Right? You're not going to sign any papers. And George looked at him and he said, I'll sign every paper you put in front of me. My way. I will sign them, but it will be my way. And the guy just kind of looked at George and smiled, right? And this is a process that has to keep going, people. I mean, people, because each of these things that get done, these guys think about it. What are they doing? Who's on the right side and who's on the wrong side here? The court seems so miserable and intimidating and just nasty. And these guys are completely opposite to that. So the court and our administration's telling us, watch these guys. They're bad dudes. And we've never seen them do a bad thing. We've never really heard them say a bad word. And they talk to us, and we learn shit. So it's very good, very good. So we'll talk to you on Tuesday night, I guess. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Don't forget, Hal is on deck at 3 o'clock, and if you ain't here, the crickets will come and get you, drag you around the shed, and you get a spanking from Hal. Because Hal always has a lot of very good, intelligent stuff to put forward, and I muchly appreciate it. And again, I just want to thank Jules for all she does for this little network. And, if people are enjoying these shows, for God's sakes, spread them around. I mean, we may be the least known diamond in the rough on the friggin' internet, And so if there's any police listening today, we'll see you tomorrow, or Monday rather. God is tomorrow. And we'll go from there. Okay, there's the music. Take care, everybody. Have a great afternoon. I see Hal in the chat here. And, I guess we're out of here. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air. Fuck them back, it's only for they want.